Well, let's take a look at the origin of stars. Hugh Ross, who is an astronomer, one of the leaders of the progressive creationist movements, a theistic evolution type model here. This is what he has to say. The entire process of stellar evolution is by natural processes alone. We do not have to invoke divine intervention at any stage in the history of the life cycle of the stars that we observe. Now, what is he saying here? At no stage do we have to invoke God. It can all happen by natural processes. The science should support it, but that's not what we read in the books. So let's take a look at this. The popular theory for how stars form is we get these nebula, these gas and dust clouds, rotating around out there, and they begin to gravitationally collapse in, form a protostar, then over time they form into a star. Now, is that true? No, it's not. Just because it's in the textbook doesn't make it true. Piltdown Man was in the textbooks for 40 years. It wasn't true. Nebraska Man was in the textbooks. Vestigial organs were in the textbooks. They weren't true. Many other things are in textbooks. They're not true. Even history books, they're not true. Why isn't this true then? Well, when you get a nebula out there rotating around, this gas and dust cloud, as it rotates around, it will begin to gravitationally collapse inward. But as it begins to gravitationally collapse inward, it generates heat pressure. And that heat pressure causes that cloud to re-expand. It is theoretically possible for it to gravitationally collapse and form a star. But it has to be very, very condensed. And we don't observe any gas and dust clouds doing that. Let's take a look at what some of the astronomers have to say. So gas and dust clouds will expand, not contract. You can go to your Physics 101 book, read the gas pressures, and right there you'll see, you can do it mathematically, that it will cause that gas and dust cloud to expand. Let's see what they have to say. Don Youngin, PhD in physics, says this. The complete birth of a star has never been observed. The principles of physics demand some special conditions for star formation and also for a long time period. A cloud of hydrogen gas must be compressed to a sufficiently small size so that gravity dominates. And he concludes, in space, however, almost every gas cloud is light years in size, hundreds of times greater than the critical size needed for a stable star. As a result, outward gas pressure causes these clouds to spread out farther, not contract. Wow. Let's look at some more of that. Fred Whipple, The Mysteries of Comets, Washington, D.C., Smithsonian Institute Press, 1985. Now, I can use, this is an old quote, 1985, but nothing has changed in star formation over the last 25 years. And this is what he has to say. Precisely how a section of interstellar cloud collapses gravitationally into a star is still a challenging theoretical problem. Astronomers have yet to find an interstellar cloud in the actual process of collapse. Wow. There's your Smithsonian Institute. Are they a Christian organization? Not hardly. Let's look at another one. Danny Faulkner has his PhD in astronomy, says, to many astronomers it seems reasonable that stars could form from these clouds of gas. Most astronomers believe that the clouds gradually contract under their own weight to form stars. This process has never been observed. But if it did occur, it would take many human lifetimes. We're talking about 100,000 years or more. So anybody that said they've seen a star form is really old. And then he concludes, it is known that clouds do not spontaneously collapse to form stars. The clouds possess considerable mass, but they are so large that their gravity is very feeble. Any decrease in size would be met by an increase in gas pressure that would cause a cloud to re-expand. Let's see more, just to make sure. Hans Alvin, Nobel Prize winner from NASA, says this. There is general belief that stars are forming by gravitational collapse. In spite of vigorous efforts, no one has yet found any observational indication of confirmation. Thus, the generally accepted theory of stellar formation may be one of 100 unsupported dogmas which constitute a large part of present-day astrophysics. Are we seeing enough of this here? Getting the clue here? Let's do another one. Charles Ladd and Frank Shoup, both astronomers. See what they have to say. Despite numerous efforts, we have yet to directly observe the process of stellar formation. The origin of stars represents one of the fundamental unsolved problems of contemporary astrophysics. I think we got the pattern. But we got to go to our facts on file dictionary, don't we? To get the real scoop here. Let's get the real scoop. Here's what they say. Stars are formed by the gravitational collapse of cool, dense gas and dust clouds. Whoa, that's what they're saying. But you know, sometimes you have to read the rest of the story. If that's where you stop, you might believe this. But let's see what they also say in this book. They go on. There are problems, however, in initiating the collapse of a gas cloud. It resists collapse because of, firstly, its internal motions and the heating effects of nearby stars. Secondly, the centrifugal support due to rotation. Thirdly, the magnetic field pressure. And finally, they say, in a massive, dense cloud shielded by dust, it is believed that collapse can be triggered when the cloud is slowed and passing through the spiral density wave pattern of our galaxy. Notice that word believed. Why do they have to use a word like that? Because they have no evidence. Why is that more scientific than in the beginning God created? See, we're allowing one religion in the classroom and not another. If we're going to let one religion in, we should allow them all, folks. But we're not, because evolution turns out to be a very protected religion in this country. Well, wait, here we go. Star nurseries. Everybody remember this one, the Eagle Nebula. It's all over the place. It's in the textbooks. Does this picture show stars forming? According to the textbooks, it does. But you see, we need to get the rest of the story again. There's a lot of deception going on here. If we're going to teach science, we need to teach all the science so we can start thinking like scientists. See, many teachers out there, many people, scientists, have been indoctrinated into thinking like this, and they need to be retrained to start thinking like scientists. We've got to get people starting thinking like scientists. Go through the scientific model. Start understanding that. Don't reject it. Start looking at all the evidence. When dark nebula, here's what happens. When these dark nebula, these gas and dust clouds, when they collide with an emission nebula, very bright, hot nebula, they will collide and form these great big fingers to stick up like here, and you see in the Eagle Nebula. But here's one of the big problems. Those bright spots have been measured at about 10,000 Kelvin. That is so hot, they could not condense. They're going to expand. Now, where does that come from? That actually comes from a series of astronomers on that. A series of astronomers have confirmed that. These are so hot. Then there's the other thing. Well, we see there were no bright spots there, then we saw some bright spots. That's because the gas and dust cloud is spreading out, and now we can see behind it. See, they don't tell us that. They disallow anything that goes against their model. Just look at this piece of evidence and don't look at this. Folks, if you're going to think scientifically, you've got to look at this piece of evidence, and you've got to look at this piece of evidence also. You can't rule it out, because once you do, you're no longer scientific. You become a faith. Well, let's look at another one. Star nurseries. Martin Rees, a leading researcher on cosmic evolution, leading researcher in this area, in his book, Before the Beginning, 1998. Stars are still forming today. About 1,500 light years away lies the Orion Nebula, enough gas and dust to make millions of stars. It even contains protostars that are still condensing. Watch this, though. Last year, images taken by the European Southern Observatory with a very large telescope in January 2002 of the Horsehead Nebula in Orion verified the structures are expanding. Now, what do we think about that gentleman's conclusion in 1998? He was completely wrong, wasn't he? Because he was thinking this way and not like a scientist when it comes to this issue. I'm not saying these people aren't smart, folks. They are heads and tails above me in intelligence. But you can have all the great work and all the intelligence, but if you start with the wrong assumption, your conclusion will be wrong too. And that's what's happening. Star formation and time. I like numbers. Most of you probably know by now I like numbers. This is the number of galaxies that the astrophysicists calculated in the universe. About 100 billion galaxies, scientific notation 10 to the 11th. They also say that the average galaxy has about 200 billion stars in it, 2 times 10 to the 11th. I want to see if their numbers add up here. Let's give them an age of the universe 20 billion years. They're saying now about 13.7. So we're going to give them 20 billion years, give them a little extra time here. If you take 100 billion galaxies, multiply that by 200 billion stars, divide that by 20 billion years, that means 1 trillion stars are forming every year for 20 billion years. Whoa. That's a lot of stars forming this universe. I know the universe is big. 1 trillion stars every year. Let's bring those numbers down a little bit. That calculates out to 2.7 billion stars per day. In other words, today 2.7 billion stars must have formed. Let's bring it down a little bit more. That's 31,700 stars forming every second for 20 billion years, folks, and we can't even see one. The numbers don't add up. See, when you put the science behind it and match it up, it just doesn't work. You know what the explanation is now? During the early stages of the universe is when most of the stars form. Folks, that's nothing more than faith. That's hiding your evidence. That's hiding everything. And now, some of the evolutionists, in order to fix this Big Bang model, the evolutionists are saying this now, that in the early stages of the universe, in the very beginnings of the universe, light was much faster. And it slowed down to a constant. What? Wait a minute. We're just making things up as we go along. Folks, why can't we just keep it to science, what we can observe? Quit making up data and then forcing our students to learn this stuff. That's not right. We need to keep it to science. If we don't know, just be honest about it and say, we don't know. Let's look at some more. Textbooks, are they correct? Prentice Hall, Earth Science, 2001. A nebula is a large amount of gas and dust spread out in immense volume. All stars begin their lives as part of nebula. Gravity can pull some of the gas and dust in the nebula together. Their inactive cloud is then called a protostar. A star is born when the contracting gas and dust becomes so hot that nuclear fusion starts. Is that true? Absolutely not, folks. What in the world are we teaching our students? Not science. This statement is not based on science at all. It is based on nothing more than a belief in evolution. We need to get back to teaching science. That is called deception by omission. By omitting the science, they are deceiving our students, deliberately deceiving them.